Welcome to the Turn by Turn podcast. Today, Chris has defaulted, and I've subbed in Dan from Boss Rush. And where else are you? Are you other places now?
Actually, this is kind of funny. I've been working with 6.5 kind of behind the scenes for a while, so this is the first time I've been on a 6.5 show.
Is it really?
Yeah. This is pretty exciting.
Because I was watching one of the another Zelda episodes, and you have like writer credit or something.
Yeah. That was like the first thing I did. I kind of wrote the Link's Awakening episode with those guys. So that's been fun, and I've been hanging out in production meetings and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm a copy editor for the bossrush.net website, and I'm a regular on Nintendo Pow Block as well. So kind of all over the place.
Yeah, so I found you. You seem somewhat infamous for your love of like the JRPGs.
Yeah, total junkie. I am a JRPG junkie. I'll play all of them.
Yeah, so that's what we do here. So it seemed like a very natural fit.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on the show because nobody talks to me about these games. So it's really exciting for me because here we are talking about my favorite games.
I had to start a podcast to get people to talk to these games with me. So I hear you.
That's great. I almost thought about it, but I was like, yeah, man.
It can be lonely, but
yeah,
we're hoping to unify the fan base, I guess. So
right, and maybe maybe we're just natural loners as the JRPG guys. I mean, it's a single player game. You play by yourself for 90 hours. So
yeah, exactly. Well, for the sake of views, I hope somebody's willing to tune in.
I'm sure they will, because today we're talking about a fantastic game.
Yes, today we are going to talk about Bravely Default 2. So the natural first thing that comes up with Bravely Default 2 is, have you played the first game?
Actually, I haven't. I skipped the entire 3DS era, so I never got a chance to play it. And funny enough, too, I actually really don't like the is it chibi or chibi art style.
Mm-hmm.
In games, like, whatsoever. It really turns me off to them. So like this game kind of wasn't really on my radar for a long time. So yeah, I totally missed out on the first two, but I heard they're wonderful, and now I want to play them.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? Did you play them?
No. So I didn't know there was a Bravely Default until I knew there was Bravely Default 2. And I remember seeing the box art in a Target or something like that. And seeing the art on the front of the box, I was super intrigued. So I like picked it up and turned it around. And then there's these like weird large head, sort of like Mr. Rogers, like Land of Make Believe, like bobblehead characters. And I immediately put it back and was like, no, I don't think so. But I kept hearing more and more about it and how it's like this secretly like wonderful game. So eventually I actually reached out to you and was like, because I saw you had tweeted something that you had played it, or from Pow Block you had talked about it maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just like playing it. I picked it up day one, and I just played it exclusively for like 2 months, and I really was pushing it on Twitter and like all the socials. I was like, guys, this is the best game. Like, somebody else play it. I ended up finding my little niche of or clique of people that were playing it with me. So we were all kind of playing at the same pace, same time. It's pretty funny, which there was also a demo available for it. Did you try the demo before you picked it up?
I didn't. So what happened was I had bought Skyward Sword.
Okay.
And played through that. And then with money issues being what they are, I traded Skyward Sword for Bravely Default 2 just to leverage it into a different game.
Nice.
When I contacted you and was like, is this like worth like playing? Like, I'm wildly skeptical.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you didn't play the demo too, because I played the demo and I hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And actually the same thing happened with Project Triangle Strategy. I played both of the releases on those demos, and I just don't like it, but I think I'm still going to pick it up day one. I do appreciate though that Bravely Default 2, they came out with the demo. So it was announced, I think, in the 2019 Game Awards,
Mhm.
and pretty quickly after they did a demo, and the demo was pretty rough. Like it was extremely hard. The balance was just not there, and your main character kind of felt like he was on ice skates, and they took a lot of the feedback and they actually fixed everything, which is awesome to know that, Square Enix is actually listening to the fans and knowing what they want.
I've tried the demo for Octopath Traveler, which is still something that I need to play. I didn't know there was a Bravely Default demo. I probably would have played it and then maybe not picked it up at all if it wasn't a good demo. So
Yeah, it was just boring. I don't know. Like, the thing about JRPGs is like you kind of get with the story. You know what I mean? The story is what keeps you going. The character development, like you really learn to enjoy the characters, the settings, all that stuff. And when you're kind of just dropped into this one random spot with this one random party and just running around doing a turn-based combat in a desert, it's just kind of not fun. It's not why we play these games.
yeah, and that's kind of the vibe I was getting from Octopath Traveler. I
Hmm.
felt like it was either giving me too much story and like it wasn't letting me actually battle anything,
Right.
but like I knew I wasn't gonna get enough story to be satisfying.
Right.
So I was like, well, I might as well just see what the battle system is like.
Yeah,
But I
and
couldn't get to the battle system. So
the battle system in Octopath is fantastic. It's a really, really good one.
that's definitely on my list because I want to do an episode about it. But
Nice.
I get the sense that that's going to be another 90 hours worth of gameplay. And based on the demo, there's multiple characters and paths. So
Well, 8 Octopaths. So
yeah,
8
so
characters, 8 paths.
I've got a lot of work to do before I can do an episode on that. So that might be a season 5 thing, but
Nice.
someday. So as far as like the plot goes, basically it's about a refugee princess who's kicked out of her land, and all her people are killed except for sort of her trusty guardian and
Sir Sloan.
Sir Sloan,
Hmm.
who would have been very useful in multiple battles throughout the game, but had to go and die. It's her quest to regain these crystals that will help seal away the Knight's Nexus. And she has three different companions, Seth, Elvis, and Adele, who accompany her. So, what did you think of the overall plot?
I loved it. It was like the tropiest of tropey JRPG plots. Like
Yep.
literally like every trope in any JRPG, it's like, oh, you have your protagonist that washed up on the shore and has no memory. Like it was definitely kind of a cheesy plot. I mean, you even throw the crystals in there, right? Like you have
Yeah.
the 4 crystals, and it was just kind of like I was just in the mood for this, right? Like I
Mhm.
wasn't in the mood for just this over the top story with twists and turns. I wanted something that like was just thrown right at you. And the tropey things that you expect, but there was a lot of like really, really dark moments, specifically in chapter 2 and chapter 3. Chapter 2 is the one with like the little girl and the painting. Like that was dark, man.
Yeah, the little girl with the painting, and like I know it's like a super trope, but for some reason that like really like kind of creeped me, like gave me the creeps.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then like it was throwing the angels off the cliff, like that was reminiscent of the Salem witch trials back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was like kind of wild too. And just when you have all this cute chibi art and like the tropey plot, it's like they kind of throw in these things that are just super dark and like very, very surprising.
Yeah, I remember because Rimdal is the town where they start throwing the people off the edge.
Hmm.
I remember entering the town and thinking like, "Wow, this is beautiful," and then like 2 minutes later, they're like sacrificing people for like no discernible reason,
Right,
like burn
right.
the witch.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, their wings are supposed to come out and they'd fly away. And I mean, there was a couple of cool plot twists, especially towards the end of that chapter as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, overall, I mean, like I said at the top of the show, like, JRPGs, what I love about them is if they have a good story, good characters, and, the characters that like keep you in and keep you playing the game. And, I loved all the main characters. I think Seth was probably like the worst of the bunch, but,
Hmm.
you really, there was nothing wrong with him. He was just kind of vanilla, but like, there was so much character with Elvis and Adele, and like you love their relationship and the way they bounce off of each other. And like Gloria just had such purpose to her. So it was really, really entertaining kind of following these four characters through their adventure.
Yeah, I thought the Seth of it all was kind of odd because it was almost like Link's Awakening, where he like washes up on the shore. Is all of it a dream? But then like his character has like just enough personality where it's kind of like is he sort of his own character?
Right.
And then like you get sort of like one or two scenes where he discusses like anything about himself at all,
Hmm.
and then it's just sort of nothing. Like I couldn't tell you anything about him, but with Elvis and Adele, like you were saying, they're like really fleshed out characters.
Hmm.
The Adele twist I did not see coming.
No, I didn't see that coming either. That was wild.
And like that seemed like pretty random. I, I was here for it. I think it worked out, but I would not have guessed that at the beginning of the game.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean it did work out. And and then Gloria was kind of the main character of the game. I feel like for whatever reason games like this just don't want to make that lead, the female lead protagonist like the princess. You know what I mean? It was the same for like Final Fantasy 12. Like Vaughn and Pinello just didn't really seem to fit the mold of the other characters, and Ash was the protagonist. You know what I mean? She
Mhm.
was the main character. She was what the story revolved around, and Gloria was the same thing in this. So I like kind of wonder if Gloria should have been the main character, but it would be a different story if you saw it through her lens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which I think is interesting because you get a lot like you were saying, like the main chunk, like everything that happens is kind of because of Gloria in the perspective of this other person.
Right, because they want to keep you in the dark about, certain things, why you're on this adventure, why things happen. So
Yeah.
I guess I just talked myself through this whole thing why Gloria isn't the protagonist, isn't the one that you control, but she is the main character. She's the lead role.
Yeah, she's definitely clearly the leader of the group.
Yeah. What did you think about the enemies like Adam and I'm man, it's been a while since I played. I forget the final boss's name.
The Knight's Nexus or Adele's sister.
It was the Knight's Nexus, and then Adele's sister was the last one, right? In that fairy village.
Yeah, so Adele's sister Edna. I thought that was good. I thought it worked out well that they were sisters. I thought like I didn't see it coming that she was a bad guy. I thought it would be more of in the beginning of the game where she's talking about her sister being missing and how she's searching for her sister. Like wasn't really thinking, well, I bet her sister's the ultimate evil behind everything that's going wrong. So like it kind of faked me out that way.
Right, right.
Just because it was sort of said in an offhand manner. I'm looking for my sister, so I thought, oh, this is going to be like a fetch quest sort of thing, or we're going to like find her in a tavern or something like somewhere along the way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they kind of throw you off at the end too. You roll credits like what, 3 or 4 times before you actually get the true ending.
Yeah, that part confused me.
Yeah, that's when it helped that I was playing it with like 3 or 4 other people at the same time, and here, like, what do I do? Like, especially the save file one. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that I had to actually look up.
Yeah, I would never have gotten that unless if like someone told me. And I was, when I was playing it, like guides weren't really out yet because the game was only out for like 3 weeks, and to actually play all that game and write a guide, that'd be insane to have it out in a month.
Yeah, were you relying on fan guides then, or?
No, we just kind of Me and my friends kind of bounced off of each other, just like when we were stuck. One person would find it and like let the others know, or someone was ahead, they'd give the help. So it was a good thing to just like have people to play this game with.
Yeah, because I definitely had to look up a fair amount of stuff because I didn't know anyone else playing it at the time.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Like I feel like some of these games now you kind of just have to get it right away to play it at the same time as other people.
Yeah, because I lucked into like finding like the salve maker asterisk,
Oh, nice.
but had I not like I stumbled on it thinking it was part of the main story, so when it like resolved itself pretty quick and like changed the main story at all, I just thought I had like messed something up.
Hmm.
But apparently it was a side quest and it turned out to have some value.
Was that the one that was in the that like snow town
Yeah, so it's the
and you
brother
had to
that's
go in a dream?
yeah,
Yeah, that was cool.
yeah, the brother's having like the inferiority complex. So you have to like break into his dream state and make him feel good about himself.
Right, right. Like bring on the tropes. I love all these tropey storylines.
Yeah, I liked that it was very tropey, but it still had a little punch to it. Like the Wizball like story with like the cult vibes,
Hmm.
like the painter girl. Oh man, that just like creeped me out so bad.
Yeah, that was wild.
I
Just
don't know
like
why.
throwing in a dead child in the mix. Like,
Yeah.
it's messed up, man.
Another thing that I thought was kind of strange was the voice acting coming out of some of these like little chibi characters, particularly in Savalon, the sand town.
Oh yeah, like the Prince, he had that like
Yeah,
super deep voice.
yeah. He had like the Barry White voice, but it's
Yeah.
like this like cute little like
Like it looked like a Funko Pop.
yeah, like the shiny little face with like the cute eyes and like the long lashes and stuff.
Right, right. Yeah, that one definitely kind of threw me for a loop.
I think at that
Um,
point I turned off the volume for a while because like it's like it was like pulling me out of the game.
that's funny. Yeah,
So
like aside from him, I actually thought the voice acting was pretty good. I especially liked Elvis.
yeah, I loved I guess it would be Scottish
Right.
sort of ring to it.
Yeah, he was really good. I thought all the main characters are good. That would have been rough if one of the main characters didn't have good voice acting.
Yeah, they definitely did good with the main voices.
Yeah. You brought up Wiswald though. And one thing I kind of want to point out with this game too is like I like how it kind of went back towards older JRPGs and they did these like really small towns. Right? Like I don't love exploring huge towns in JRPGs and like having to find every nook and cranny with very little reward, Like this reminded me of like Final Fantasy 9 where your towns are just like right there in front of you. You see what it is and you're in and you're out. Like that I really appreciated. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
No, I really like that too because I think one of the weaknesses of some JRPGs is the open world idea
Hmm.
where there's like they want to do the open world thing to fit in with the open world thing that's so popular right now.
Right.
Like there's only so much they can kind of put in there. Like the open world part of this when you're not in a town, like there's not a lot of incentive to explore.
Right.
So
Right.
I appreciated that all the action was condensed to a small portion because that feels very RPG like to have the smaller towns.
Yeah, this genre just linearity is fine. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
your exploration areas, like your caves and your fields, like leave that a little bit open. That's fine. I don't need a hallway. But the towns and stuff, just give me like a linear, here's what you get. I thought that was great. And I really, really hope that more games keep doing this.
Yeah, because I like when you're out in the fields cutting grass, like there's not a lot of incentive in cutting the grass. Like you might get like 54
Hmm.
shekels or whatever the currency was. There's like no other reason to be out there.
Right.
So it was nice to go into the towns and at least be like focused.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. I really appreciate that. And like I thought the scale of everything was kind of good. I don't know if we're kind of going off the rails here, but like yeah, the scale of the towns were fantastic. The scale of like the dungeons were perfect in my opinion. And like
Mhm.
nothing overstayed its welcome in this game in my opinion. Like when it came to these areas, I felt like whenever I was ready for an area to wrap up, We were good. We were gone. On to the next spot.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that because some of the ones near the end, like when you're dropping off the crystals in sort of like their holders,
Mm-hmm.
in you sort of fight these like four, what would you call them? Beasts, like the
Yeah,
protectors.
mm-hmm.
Like that felt like it got a little winding, like up the pathway when like you knew what you needed to do, and it kind
Right.
of makes you walk like 7 miles to get to the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just let me get to the thing. But other than that, like I was very happy with like the pacing of it all.
Yeah. That one didn't really stick out to me, so I guess I was a little a little more lenient with that part.
But did you like how it ended?
I did. Yeah, I really did. I like how it ended, and I actually really liked how they gave you the fake endings too.
Mhm.
With like they had the one with Elvis and Adele being separated, and it was just like kind of crushing. But yeah, I thought the ending was kind of just it wrapped everything up nicely. You put a bow on it, don't have to worry about anything. Game's over, right?
Mhm. I,
What'd you think?
I actually liked the ending,
Mhm.
the the real ending with them on the beach.
Yeah,
I thought that set up nicely if they wanted to do another game. I
right.
kind of like it when they leave it like they could do another game, but they're probably not.
Hmm.
Like it seems like if they do another Bravely Defaulted something, it
Right.
probably won't be the same characters, but like those characters are still out there kind of having adventures.
Hmm.
So like when I delve in and start writing on my fan fictions, like I have some narrative threads to feed off of.
Right.
I'm totally kidding, but if you want a fan fiction episode on Bravely Default, let us know.
I'm sure we can find some of them.
We'll read your fan fiction as bonus content for, for our Patreon.
It sounds like a good Patreon exclusive.
We don't have Patreon yet, but if we ever do, it'll be reading fanfics for people. We'll do dramatic character reads.
Oh yeah.
Well, do you want to hop to a break, and then when we get back, we can go into the gameplay and like the battle systems and everything?
That sounds great.
All right, perfect.
Hey there, podcast listeners. I am David.
And I'm Kate.
And together we host a podcast that you might be interested in if you like The Legend of Zelda.
There are lots of awesome podcasts out there and a lot of awesome Zelda podcasts out there.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. In fact, that is the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We do a couple top 10 lists here and there.
We have some deep dive episodes, and we even pepper in a couple quiz episodes.
We talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. If it has to do with The Legend of Zelda, we talk about it.
You can check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a lot of the other podcast services that are out there.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye!
Jake, have you ever been looking for a definitive Nintendo ranking and can't seem to find it because it's just everybody's own opinion?
Honestly, all the time, Sam.
Well, I'm looking for someone to give us the answers.
Wait, you mean like a podcast made by two young, handsome men where they create a definitive top 5 list of all things Nintendo?
Should we just do it ourselves?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Let's give it a shot. I'm Sam,
And I'm Jake.
and at Top 5 Nintendo, I'm going to give you my top 5 list,
And I'm gonna give you my top 5 list.
and then we're going to duke it out and see what the real top 5 is.
All right, we are back from our break, and we're going to get into some of the gameplay of it all. So, in general, did you like the Brave and the Default?
Yeah, that was one of the coolest turn-based gimmicks I think that I've played. Um, It's super super simple. You know what I mean? Like you hit R for the brave to go up and it gives you X amount of attacks, and then you can default to go backwards and gain BP and just have a good defense for it. It I found myself strategizing way more than I thought I would just with this kind of simple gimmick. And it was, the first I've heard of the game, so it was all new to me, and it was really really fun. What did you like it?
I really liked it. I thought it made small encounters feel like they go by a lot faster, because if it is kind of like a weak opponent, you can just brave your way through it with one character,
Hmm.
and then you can do more encounters, so you can, and then each battle will start with a different character, so you can grind a lot faster than you can in like a normal like Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, for sure. Especially too, since you can so like when you get a bunch of different characters or enemies into one spot and hit them with your sword, you can line up like, up to 10 battles at once, and it tacks on the experience and the JP and gives you bonuses on it. Um, so like, yeah, having the brave for that is like incredible.
Because like I was saying, like the slower pace of the battles with some of the other Final Fantasy games,
Hmm.
like I just feel like I end up like playing for an hour and all I've done is like single encounters. Like
Right.
like from point A to point B. Like I just spent an hour and a half doing like regular encounters, but I feel like with this game, like the Brave and the Default let me just speed through them. So it's,
Yeah, and kind of the nice thing too about this, like one tough thing with JRPGs is they typically like do all this animation as you go into battle, and it takes like 40 seconds to start your fight. And they don't do that with this one. It's like the fight starts and like all the enemies are there and your prompts are right up there. So um that
Mhm.
makes it nice for grinding too.
Yeah, because I was noticing, especially in some of the SRPGs, actually, you get the character that runs across the screen, and depending on how it's formatted, that character has a very long way to run across the screen just to like wave their spear once, and then go back for it to kind of reset. This game is very quick.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like the 2D games like Final Fantasy 6 or like Chrono Trigger, where they just stand there and like swing their sword a couple times and it's like, it's
Mhm.
500 damage.
Yep,
I
exactly.
actually appreciate that. I know that was kind of when the game came out, that was kind of one of those polarizing things where people are just like, this is lame, or people love it. So I'm on the team that loved it.
I definitely really appreciated that. And then like the think like pausing to think like, should I default now and then sort of ramp up to like a really big attack all at once, or should I just like go for it immediately? I remember specifically in the battle with Adam, sort of the boss, like the third to final boss,
Right.
and I like kept losing every which way I was defaulting and braving. And so eventually I just grinded a bunch and braved out all four characters to all -3 BP and just hit him with everything I got, and I won first turn.
Oh, that's amazing.
But like I couldn't beat him until I just had maxed out everybody and beat him in one turn.
Just went for it.
Like I couldn't strategize how to beat it, so I just had to like overwhelm it,
Mm.
because he has like a pretty crippling attack where it basically knocks out your whole team all at once.
Oh, right. And I think I remember there's some sort of job that gave your team auto life. And
Mhm.
I always stacked Gloria as like a healer type character. So she would just be throwing the auto life on everybody. I remember having a very difficult time with that fight.
Yeah, so the I always joke that it's Loki. The Loki asterisk that you get has like a
Mhm.
re-raise where you can like bring people back from the dead with like 200 HP.
Right.
And every time, some of the boss battles, and we'll probably get into that more, are like basically impossible. Like basically it starts and your whole team is wiped out regardless of what you've done.
Right.
So like every single tutorial on how to beat boss X ends with you need this re-raise thing, and I didn't have that. So like I had to grind somebody up to get it.
Gotcha. Yeah, the job system I thought was like really, really awesome. It felt really, really good and really natural getting these asterisks and like what they did. And you can kind of I actually really, really loved that once you master the jobs, you have like a primary and a secondary like
Mhm.
special that came with it. And it was really fun finding combinations that like just broke characters. And one of the things I was doing was there's one like special ability or master ability, I should say, with the Beastmaster, where it's like the amount of enemies that you catch boosts your stats. So I was going into every single fight boosting stats by just catching monsters. And my main character would be like uh, I think it was just like a sword fighter, something like that, and that's like the strongest one in the game. So, my attack was maxed out at 999, and I was just smashing enemies with that. And there's you can do it in so many which ways, like with the characters, and just try to find a way to break characters and make them incredible. So, with the 18 different jobs they had, it was really fun mixing and matching and figure out what I could get.
Another thing I thought was very cool about the job system was that you didn't have to like spend like 20 hours grinding up a job. Like the level ups for future asterisks like weren't like a pain. Like
Right.
leveled up like you could get to level 7 in like a couple of fights.
Yeah, and that was really nice. I like for a JRPG that took me 80 hours, it still respected my time in a ironic way like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I probably could have beat this game in like 35 or 40, but I just like spent so much time grinding and exploring and leveling guys up. How do you remember how you built your team? Like how you had Seth and Gloria? Like, did you have kind of a pattern for them, or did you just have them do any job they wanted?
So I had Seth be a shield master, sort of like the character with like the cast wearing the castle with like the castle shield. So I had him be that, and the Loki one with the re-raise. It's like totally spacing what it's called right now, but I think people know what I'm talking about because you basically have to have it to beat the game. And
Right.
then I had Gloria be a white mage and a berserker. So she was like my ultimate powerhouse, but also my healer, which
Nice.
kind of ran into some issues with I wasn't doing a whole lot of damage if she was needing to heal. And then I had Adele
Spirit Master was the re-raise one, by the way. I just looked up.
Yeah, Spirit Master. So that was Seth. Gloria was those two.
Yep.
I had Elvis be magic. I had him be the black mage and the red mage.
Nice.
And then eventually I had to make him a berserker too, just because I was going for like pure just pound. And then I had Adele. Adele sort of rotated. I occasionally had her be the musician.
Oh yeah, the bard.
Yep. But I had her be so she was Vanguard Bard or Vanguard and like Huntress, like the character with the bow.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was kind of along the same lines. I had Seth as like a sword master a shield master / berserker. I'm actually looking at it right now. I had sword master / berserker or I'm sorry, shield master. And Gloria I had as a spirit master and just white mage, so she was just like purely healing. These are my end game builds, by the way. And then I had Elvis as a red mage and an oracle. Um, I I remember using the oracle to like add on elemental weaknesses or take away elemental weaknesses, and that was like really helpful towards the end for those bosses. And then Adele was a swordmaster slash beastmaster, and that was the one where I was just like an absolute tank. Like her stats are just through the roof. So yeah, that was my end game one.
The Beastmaster was such a fun job, and I didn't stick with it just because decided to go a different way with it. But that idea of being able to kind of like collect the monsters from the open world and just like toss them in and kind of see what they end up doing for you.
Yeah. Like
sometimes it's just like extra evade, and then other times it's like does like 1,500 damage.
Right.
But it's basically like a pun telling you what it's going to do. So I remember when I still had it, I would like drop monsters and never know what it was going to do.
Yeah.
And like fights would hinge on like the stuff that I had on me.
Right.
Which is why I think I eventually switched, because like I had no guarantee of like what I had. And like I don't have the memory to say, oh yeah, this monster does this.
Yeah. I like it kind of told you what they would do, but most of it was guessing, right?
Yeah, it was like hints or puns, if I remember right, where it was like,
yes,
like spooky guy, and like that like makes you evade more or something.
Right.
And that I actually appreciated because I thought it was funny, but I siphoned out. I could definitely picture myself playing again and like being like the painter or like the solve maker.
Yeah. I was thinking about doing a new game plus run and just doing all the stuff I didn't do, like the gambler, the salve master. There's a lot that I didn't really get to towards the end.
Yeah, and I think that gives it extra playability because you could go back. And another thing that I liked about the battle system was that buffs would work on bosses.
Yeah.
A lot of times in these things, like you get like a slow spell or like a sleep spell, and it's for like the lowest possible, weakest enemy you could possibly battle, and it works on them, and then you use it on a boss and it doesn't.
Right, so you never end up using it. It's a pointless skill.
Yes, I hate that in games.
Yep.
Because it's like, here you unlocked this move that you can't use in any situation. Congrats. So I would be interested to go back and try some of the other jobs that are buffs in getting to try them.
Yeah, for sure. There's enough content in this game to like replay the game, not be bored, and have it feel different, right? Just with so many jobs that there were. And for it being a turn-based JRPG, like there's a lot of different ways to play it too. And I think that's fantastic. I loved it.
Yep. So what did you think of the side quests?
Oh, I'm a junkie for side quests. Even when they're so stupid. There was just like one side quest where I like palmed my forehead. There was a guy in the desert, and yeah, like he forgot his lunch. So you go to the town, you get his lunch, you bring it back to him. And he's like, oh, I don't have a fork to eat it. So you go to the town, you get his fork, you come back, and he's like, oh shit, I need napkins. So you go to the town and you go back, and you're like, what? Like, there's nothing to do there. But I mean, anything that gives me extra experience, JP, or gifts, like I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do every single side quest, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it felt like there were like a couple different ones. Like that is like the pinnacle of like the absolute worst. But it seemed like there were some other like fetch questy kind of ones that you'd finish, and then your reward was just not awesome.
Right.
There's one, and it's actually part of the main story where one of the characters from Wiswald, his sister dies in Rheimdall,
Mhm.
and like the reward you get for like completing the quest of like finding like one person that didn't hate his sister is like a Mark of the Void like talisman that
Yep.
like you equip and it makes it so you can't level up anymore. It was like, why are you giving like what value is this?
Yeah, I mean, again, like it's the tropiest JRPG ever, and they're
Yeah.
just gonna throw in these like totally wonky, unnecessary side quests everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, did you play the card game B&D? I couldn't get into it.
Is it based on the game?
It's in the game.
Oh, it's the
It
in
was
the casino in Savalon.
yeah, it's how you get the gambler
Yes.
gambler job. Yeah, I just like so it's supposed to be like a card game like there was in Final Fantasy 8 and 9. And there just kind of wasn't much reward to it, but I just didn't really find it that fun. So I never played it.
Yeah, some of them it felt like it was kind of pulling teeth to complete them. And then sometimes you'd get like a weapon that wasn't better than the weapons you already had. So like some of the side quests, I was kind of like, do I want to do it? Like was it gonna get me?
Right, right.
But generally they weren't too bad, I thought, and you could very easily skip them, and it wouldn't deter you from beating the game.
No, and yeah, exactly. But it was enough to do where like it was worth it, you know?
It was definitely incentivized in a nice way.
For sure.
So one thing that stuck out to me was it felt like some of the boss battles were just absolutely insanely hard. And like maybe it's just that I suck at gaming, but it felt like some of them like I had sort of mentioned earlier that you'd start the battle and then like the second they get a turn, your whole team is dead.
Mm. Yeah, there was one that like specifically stuck out to me. He was in chapter 2. I think he was the shield master one. I found that one to be very, very difficult. A lot of those asterisk fights were difficult, but to be honest with you, I didn't mind it. I liked the challenge.
The first berserker fight in Savalon, that one really took me a while to get, because he like hits you with like 3,000 like 3,000 hits right in a row. That one I thought was pretty tough. It was funny because some of them would like really like stick me up, and I'd be doing it like 3 or 4 times, and then I'd like breeze through like 6 of them in a row, no problems. Like I barely would lose any health. So you'd be like, why were these later on in the game? Like I'm demolishing these. And then others, it felt like it was kind of stuck. The one you face an old man named Dominic.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the Oracle, actually.
See the Oracle? Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the Oracle. I thought that one was really hard because he heals himself whenever you like attack him. I think if you attack him with magic, he like heals himself like 4,000.
Oh yeah.
So like you could get him down to like 40K, and then he'd start healing himself in a couple turns, like he's back to full strength.
Oh yeah, yeah. You had to beat that guy real quick. It's coming back to me a little bit.
Yeah, that one was pretty rough.
But yeah, like I said, I liked the challenge of it. You had to go into it with different strategies each fight and use the jobs differently. It was cool.
Yeah, I liked the musician that you could sort of like dumb down the attacks. Like that, it would drop it by like 15%. So if you did the full like Brave default, for the 3, you could drop it down to like 65% of like its total hit, and that's kind of gets you by that initial like we're gonna do like 5,000 damage to all of your characters all at once.
Right.
So
Yeah, I liked the bard for a bit, but I just kept getting bodied. Like
yeah.
I think I had Elvis as the bard, or maybe it was Gloria. I think it was Gloria actually, because I had her do like the white mage, like just total support character. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But she was just getting smashed every time someone would attack her.
Yeah, it's only viable as a sub job.
Right,
There's
right.
just no way.
Yeah, and you want to master everything to get to that sub job, but it's so tough. But again, like I actually find that stuff really fun. So
Yeah, as long as the grinding isn't like painfully slow, I'm happy to sit there and grind. And
yeah,
then
exactly. When I feel like I'm being rewarded rather than running around doing random encounters for 45 minutes and I'm like, oh, I got one level.
which is definitely can be the case as you get to the higher levels. It felt like it kind of slows down when you get to that level 45.
Yeah.
Feels like you see a lot less levels passing after that,
Yeah, for sure.
but you level up super quick. So, what did you think of the music?
Music is really good. Like I was telling you before we started recording, I had played this game when it first came out. It took me probably a month, maybe 5, 6 weeks to beat it. And I haven't played it since then. But I started playing it and like got into that. I replayed it just to do like a refresher on the game and remember everything. And like I'm in the overworld and the music's playing and I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm feeling nostalgic for a year-old game. Like this music is just kind of hitting hard, you know? But again, like one pandemic year is 14 real years, so I could see
Yep.
why it felt nostalgic, but I felt like the music really, really brought out the best of each area that you were in. Everything just felt like it fit. There was nothing that felt out of place. I thought it was really, really good. What about you?
I really liked it. I thought the reason that the painter girl was so creepy was the music.
Mm-hmm.
That like you're walking through her like kind of like murder cave. Like that music is so eerie.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I loved the boss music. I love the asterisk battle music. I thought that was really good.
Hmm. Yeah, they did a good job with that. I thought it was a little strange that when you battle bosses, you enter like the purple zone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a little weird.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of fitting just because the asterisks like just serves such a purpose that I thought it gave it just like a nice kind of, I don't know how you explain it, but like it just kind of gave it a nice feel to the fight. Like it felt very important rather than just like squaring off in this field where you find the bard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you knew something big was coming from these fights. So I didn't mind it, but I'm actually kind of in the minority on that.
Yeah, I think it was just like because I thought it was just with the bard that was happening, and that kind of made sense to me. Like, oh, he's like putting on a show, so like the colors are all weird, and there's peacock all over the place. But as it went on, like I got used to it and was totally fine with it. It just struck me as odd that they each one kind of pulls you into like the multiverse sort of area.
Right, right.
But I thought like a lot of the sound design felt really good and very natural too.
Yeah, it all fit, it all flowed. It felt really good. Like it felt very fleshed out. And
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
very warm and inviting.
Yeah, one of my friends that played it at the same time as me, she still listens to the soundtrack all the time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so that soundtrack really stuck with people.
yeah. It's pretty mellow, so I could picture putting it on while reading or studying if I still studied anything.
I could see that.
So would you want to see like a sequel or like I'm not sure how Bravely Default 1 fits in, but like a prequel to this game?
I you know what? After playing this game, anything Bravely Default, I'm gonna play. This was like one of the most enjoyable games I've played in a long time. It was like that JRPG comfort food, right?
Yeah.
It's not the best game I've ever played, and it's just not the worst. It's actually the best 8 out of 10 game I've ever played. It was, it was just like, it was that comfort food. It's exactly what you want in a JRPG. And I would, I would trust them to deliver again on the same thing. And I'm going to love it beginning to end because it was just a very, very fun JRPG.
I would totally agree. I thought it far exceeded my expectations because I basically didn't go in with any. I went in with like, these like bobbleheads are kind of weird.
I was the same.
And then I came out being like, yeah, that's really not that bad. That's good. I would definitely play another game.
Yeah. My opinion on chibi art style has not changed though.
No. It's just peculiar.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, maybe I find this kind of odd. Like, chibi art to me is like this kind of cutesy art, but then like you show up and Martha's wearing like a sexy leather outfit and you're like, okay, this like 1 + 2 does not equal 5. Like what is going on here? You know what I mean? Like some of that stuff just kind of threw me for a loop.
Yep. That I totally understand. But it seemed like within the game it worked.
Yeah.
Like
the art style did really work for the game.
Yeah. Which I think was probably like my hesitation with looking at it being like the type of game like I kind of think this doesn't really match what these characters look like. But
yeah,
they melded it really well. So like it didn't really feel out of place.
Right.
And they didn't sort of highlight, they didn't make extra focus on, we have giant heads. And like other than like a few characters, it really didn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, like the Switch is going to have graphical limitations, right? And I think for the scale they wanted to make this game, the art style kind of fit it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, even the chibi art really exceeded my expectations too.
Yeah, there was just a couple of people who had like extra big heads, and then like anybody with glasses, I thought looked odd.
Right. Now, I mean, we've talked about like all the good things. Was there anything that kind of threw you off in this game or rubbed you the wrong way?
I felt that the last, like I was kind of saying earlier, getting to like the certain point in the game where like you're placing the crystals, like I felt like I was winding around past and I'd occasionally like run into dead ends.
Yep.
And I was kind of feeling like I was at the point in the game where like just give it to me.
Right, like it's
Don't
dragging out.
don't send me down like a murky like waterway that doesn't go anywhere. Like I feel like I've earned more than that at this point than like randomly wandering and like hoping I'm gonna end up at the right side of the labyrinth at the end.
Right. That makes sense.
So like dead ends like started like really kind of getting on my nerves.
Yeah. And that's going to happen too when you're in your 70th hour of a game, where it's like a little too much towards the end.
Yeah. But other than that, I just enjoyed it. Like you said, it's just comfort food for the genre.
Yeah, it really is. It didn't do anything special. The story just wasn't anything special. It was just good. It was solid. It was fluid. And I was bummed when it was over. I was like, man, I haven't played a game that I enjoyed that much in a long time. I wish it was still going. So I'm really happy with it.
Yeah. And that ending, leaving it open, is always something I enjoy.
Yeah. And I would totally recommend it to anybody who enjoys the genre. I mean, you wouldn't be listening to this if you didn't. So
yeah, if you've gotten this far and you don't have the slightest interest in the game, let us know in the comments. You're a trooper. But so I think there's obviously plenty of room for a sequel, but I don't don't need one. I'd be happy to just have that same battle system incorporated into a new story. Maybe like a sci-fi kind of thing would be cool with that same format. Give me a
Yeah.
lightsaber.
As far as I know, like the, Bravely Default, the first one, isn't associated at all with this one. It's just two separate entries.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, I think with the success of this game and how well it did, it sold over 1 million copies. It did well, and it probably exceeded expectations considering the first Bravely Default was in like the 2 to 300,000 copies sold.
Mhm.
So I would definitely expect another one down the pipe.
Yeah, and I think that that's definitely going to be in the cards because if they've sold 1 million copies, there's obviously somebody's listening, somebody's playing,
Right.
and it seems that I didn't know it existed until I happened to see it in a store. So the word of mouth must have been really strong for this one that people are still getting into it now.
Yeah, I think showing up at the Game Awards, when they did it as their grand announcement, that was really good for them too, right?
Mhm.
Because like you, I had never heard of the series until this game. So just seeing it JRPG on Switch, I was like, yeah, I'm all in.
Mhm. Because it doesn't have that like Metroid Dread level of like built-in fan base.
Exactly.
Like, there's obviously people that enjoyed the first game, but there wasn't like fan like polls and like Indiegogos starting to like get another game made. They just made a really awesome game and got the results.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say on like just how much I love the game, but it's all right there for us.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up there then, because I'm just about out of stuff to say too.
Yeah. You know, last words, great comfort food for the genre. Play the game and let us know what you think.
Yeah, drop us a comment. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thanks so much for having me. Next time we talk, I recommend a game. I'll pop back on and talk to you.
I know you're my source. You- this has made you reliable to ask your opinion. So,
Yes.
where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DCDM99, and you can find my articles on www.bossrush.net.
Any article to plug? Well, this actually isn't coming out for about a month. So,
Yeah.
are you planning anything of interest that might be out by then?
No, but I do have one in the pipes, probably about like the top 10 JRPGs on Switch. So I'll definitely be shooting that your way once I write it.
Awesome. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode. This is the first, basically the first game we've talked about that's come out recently. I think our like other most current game was like 2010 or something like that. So this
Nice.
is this is our first time talking about a game that has only been out about a year.
Yeah. You're in the 2020s decade now.
I know it feels weird to talk about a game that is still like in the cultural, like people tweet about this game. Like we're not the only one tweeting about Chrono Trigger anymore. Like we have an episode of the Modern Era.
That's great. Keep it up.
I know. Triangle Strategy is gonna blow us out of the water.
Oh, can't wait for that game.
I'm really excited for that game. That's another game where I saw the box art and was sold just on that.
Yeah.
Is
Have
that
you played the Xenoblade series?
I haven't. I
Uh,
really want to though.
That's another one I love. I actually just started playing the DLC for Xenoblade 2. It's called Torna, and it's like its own kind of standalone game that's set 500 years before Xenoblade 2, and I'm having a blast with it.
Oh really? Are you on like hour 400? Is that how that goes?
Well, so Xenoblade 2, I think I put in 180 hours into that game. I like played only that game for 6 months. And then I got burnt out because I played 180 hours of it. And this DLC I've read is about, 30 to 50 hours. So I'm about 20 hours into it. It's really, really fun.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
that keeps getting near the top of the list, and then there's Skyward Sword remakes and HD releases, and then I end up doing those, and then I
play.
back.
Yeah. Then it's like, oh, the N64 online has a new game.
I know the Majora's Mask is dropping pretty soon, and then I have to put my entire list on hold.
Very excited for that. I just finished Paper Mario too.
Yeah, that's another one I need to play.
Oh, very fun. You'll love it.
Yeah, I really like the mechanics of turning sideways to slide through stuff, and
It's good stuff.
like the visuals of that appeal to me.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up there. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts would be amazing. Nice comments would be great as well. You can leave mean comments and 5-star ratings. That's okay too. We'll internalize it and it'll help us make a better show. Dan, thanks so much for joining us again.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It was a good time.
Thank you so much, and we will talk to you guys real soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.